Coulter is a lawyer who specialises in intellectual property, and he's one of our regular contributors at Arise, and he joins us now in the studio. So, Kevin, do you think we're going to see legal action against Periscope and other sites that were able to facilitate the live streaming?
Well, Periscope's only been around for 5 weeks or thereabouts, and we've seen an unprecedented rise in the number of opportunities for broadcasting live data, live streaming, whatever it might be. Meerkat is also sort of challenging there. Periscope seems to have won the battle so far, but we're still in early days, and it's looking back to the days of when YouTube really started, and people were uploading copycat videos, other parodies or other sort of live streams from TV, and YouTube certainly have developed an algorithm and an opportunity to reduce that, to censor it, and you'll find now that many live broadcasts may be on there for 5 seconds or a few minutes, but then you go to find them and they're gone. And what the broadcasters are likely to do, and promoters, to say to Periscope, well, look, it's OK you saying, as you have done this time, we've tried to do it, we've tried to curtail it, and I think there were 66 applications or thereabouts made to Periscope to take down particular streams. Only 30 were successful because the other 36 had expired already. But things need to be done to address this and to react. And it's the same as we've seen across all social media. Twitter, Facebook, and the like, use copyright images. What's interesting here is that, particularly in Europe, sports entertainment isn't normally protected by copyright law. It's not something which is rehearsed or particularly creative, says the courts, and therefore it's unlikely to be protected. What is protected, though, is potentially the broadcast and the extra bits, the extra elements that go around that. So it's going to be an interesting debate.
When you look at sort of the nature of social media and what it's all about, it's about freedom of expression. You know, you can say what you want and show what you want to a point. Is there a real threat here to the industry of rights-based sports and entertainment?
I think without a doubt, and what Periscope does is basically from any mobile phone or smartphone these days, you can broadcast live to the world. And it's interesting to understand that. It's not a closed community. It's broadcasting to people who you don't necessarily know. And these things are shared and developed. And what we're not seeing at the moment is how easy it is to search for particular things. And I think once that's developed, then yes, it's going to become much more of an issue. And particularly for things such as live music, sports events as well, where people do pay for that experience. And unlike what we've seen this time around, which is typically people filming their TV screens, if you're there, if you've paid to be at an event, and you have that right to be there to take photographs, perhaps, depends on the terms and conditions of the particular location, but what's to stop people? Easier to do in a theatre where it's dark and there might only be a couple of hundred people. But if you're at a concert where there are 100,000 people, how easy is it to go around and stop each individual from doing that live? And almost then the damage is done.
It's difficult, and it's a complicated picture as well, isn't it? Because, for example, HBO were using Periscope themselves to do this sort of behind-the-scenes footage, so it's not quite so sort of cut and dry.
That's right. Well, most businesses nowadays are using social media to their advantage, and what we're seeing is that being used to tailor adverts, to find other ways to promote and get an edge on the competition. What's good for the goose is arguably good for the gander. And what we need to look at is how we address that and how those broadcasters say, well, OK, you've paid your money, but we're going to come down quite heavy if you do something we don't like. We want you to share. We encourage you to share the things that we want you to share, but we'll determine that. We'll determine what's good for us, not necessarily always what's good for you. That's the balance. So it's the consumer, it's the intermediary, the provider, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, and then it's the sort of the ultimate I suppose, broadcaster or provider of the live entertainment.
When it comes to sort of the possibility of the user being punished by the owner of the rights, be HBO, Showtime, whoever it is there a possibility they could come after somebody who's watched it on their phone sort of innocently?
Well, innocence is a questionable thing.
But if it's there and you're...
That's right.
Yeah.
If it's being live streamed, you don't always know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And what people do is tend to not give these streams the accurate names. And during the Mayweather fight particularly, there were people saying, don't like this, don't heart it, as you do on Periscope. We don't want to draw attention to the fact that this is being done. Yet there was one there, I think a Spanish stream, with 10,000 viewers from one phone. Now, when we're looking at those sorts of statistics, somebody ultimately is going to get caught out. And what Periscope says in their terms and conditions is, have respect. We have respect for intellectual property. We want you to have respect as well. Don't be outrageous. Of course, there might be incidental periods where you do happen to do something either in the background or it's maybe a short clip, but don't be too obvious about this. And certainly, if it does become an issue, we will take steps to address it. How far those steps go, either through Periscope or through, in this case, HBO, Showtime, we'll have to wait and see.
And how easy is it for tech companies to develop sort of automatic sensors to stop this kind of piracy? Do they exist?
They do exist, and YouTube have worked on it very, very well. And as I say, you very quickly have things taken down if you try to put them on there these days. It depends how savvy people are trying to get around it. For every time that there is a fix, there's somebody else there working on the hack to find a new way of doing it. And you have to stay on top of it. But Periscope's owned by Twitter. It's not as if they're short on cash, we know that. Rumour is it was bought for $100 million to start with. There are lessons to be learned, and I think there's a responsibility to the broadcasters, but also to consumers, to take steps to protect both sides of the coin by the people stuck there in the middle.
Kevin Poulter, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.